Why Wyoming? Why do I write stories set in Wyoming, you might be wondering. I grew up in Lombard, Illinois, a suburb of Chicago. After graduating from Northwestern with undergrad and master's degrees, I was a newspaper reporter, then editor in Illinois and North Carolina, followed by 23 years at the Washington Post. You might notice Wyoming doesn't figure in that mini bio anywhere. My fascination with Wyoming started with a free airline ticket. I'd agreed to take a later flight, a big mistake. The later flight was delayed, and then it was rerouted, and then it was delayed again. So I wanted, having gone through all that, to get the absolute most out of my free airline ticket. So I figured I wanted to go somewhere I'd never been before, didn't think a writer's conference was likely to take me, and it was expensive to fly to. So I really got a lot out of that free ticket. I'd earned it. So I ended up choosing to fly to Sheridan, Wyoming. I was fascinated. That first trip took me across the northern part of the state to Yellowstone Park, which I've revisited a number of times, including in Look Live, Book 5 in my Caught Dead in Wyoming series. Many other trips to Wyoming have taken me all over the state. The landscapes are breathtaking and constantly changing. I particularly like the eastern slope of the Big Horn Mountains, which is where I've set many of my books, although the Caught Dead series is, I sort of stole part of Park County, which is by Cody and is on the eastern slope of the Rockies. But what I like best are the people. They're fascinating. On one trip, I was trying to follow the route of the Bozeman Trail, which was a sort of a shortcut to gold fields that was from the Oregon Trail up to Montana. After a while, I realized I hadn't seen another vehicle in a really long time. Then I realized I hadn't seen a building. And then I realized I hadn't seen any telephone poles. And that was at a time when you needed telephone poles all over. It was getting close to sunset, and I was running low on gas. And the cows were not sharing any directions with me. So I backtracked and I found a house. And there was a rancher just arriving there in his truck. Turns out I'd been in his pasture, on his pasture roads. Oops. He very kindly led me back to where I had taken a wrong turn, where I was supposed to be. I asked if I could do anything for him to thank him for his kindness. And he said, "You could tell me what you're doing here." So I did. And we talked about the Bozeman Trail, and which in fact did run through his ranch, and that the ruts were still visible all these, decades later, 100 plus years later. And then I said, if you ever get east, because at that point I was living in DC, I said, if you ever get to the DC area, I'd be really happy to take you and your family to lunch. And he shook his head and said, I don't expect to get to DC anytime soon. I said, well, do you ever get back east at all? And he sort of squinted toward the eastern horizon and said, in true Wyoming laconic fashion, I get to Nebraska now and then. So that was his eastern trip. And how can you not like people with that kind of humor?